So there you go, that's good, eh?
Yeah.
To act responsibly, which obviously we know that in certain cases they haven't. I'm sure there's a...
I'm going to say it again, Dan. I think it doesn't down to police, doesn't it?
Yeah, they didn't even query the increase, did they?
No, it was theirs. They put it in.
What did they put in?
Well, first you get 2,100, and then after the 6 months you get 2,200.
No, I'm talking about, you know, we were negotiating on 1,600, weren't we?
Oh, no, because I told them, I said, can we make that he has it in hand? And she said, yeah, no, that's reasonable, you know, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which I think it is, really, isn't it? Well, it's more than I get.
What do you mean it's more than you get?
800 you get per directorship, you know? To sign fucking orders. I have 4 directors. I have to work for it. Not that I work particularly lots a day.
Reclaim, a claims management company, can check PPI on every credit card, loan and mortgage you've ever had. And with fast track solicitors legal action, you could still claim it back, even after the deadline. Find out. Text yes to 82727. You don't need a claims company to check PPI.
Wow, this is already with people in it.
Yeah.
AX Group, my God, how quickly, yeah? Careful.
Are you the owner of fine wines or rare whiskies? You could sell them effortlessly at thelondonwineseller.com. With hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, ask for a valuation. We'll get back with a cash offer you'll love. No waiting for brokers or auctions. The London Wine Cellar guaranteed to beat any competitor's cash offer with immediate payment terms. Conditions and guarantee information on our website. From one special bottle to an investment portfolio, look no further. Visit thelondonwineseller.com.
Be interesting to know what it is with Barney, won't it?
Award-winning drinks are better.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. I don't like it. This colour is just fair. It's really horrible. It's ugly.
Oh, we can actually come up this way from down here.
What?
This is the only bit of the road we can use going that way.
Oh, thank God for that.
S25G on a 10 gig plan on the UK's
I think we can. Yeah, we come in up there, don't we?
Yes, from there we come and we go straight ahead.
That's beyond brilliant. Blimey, we got ourselves an off the scale.
Please go slowly on this road. I really hate this road. Yeah.
Oh,
Offers end 2nd of December.
Limited 5G coverage, 24-month plan, terms apply, no one for network performance, verified e.co.uk/claims. The first time my housemate's here.
You can brake. You don't need to let it roll.
But it's inefficient to brake, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but it's better for my well-being. Oh my God, look at the...
Look at that, what? I'm doing 30 day.
Another mini electric. Search mini electric, don't just drive it, feel it.
Right now for an amazing £5.
Do you think they'll ever resurface this road?
Great bump, 6 family favourites.
Who knows? Well, it definitely needs it.
Oh, doesn't it?
340 gram pack of
Horrible.
bird's eye meat
We'll
vegetables
tip you over if you don't watch it.
56 gram pack of bird's eye outline.
Last year. They all speed. It's horrible.
Well, they need the speed to get up the other side, do you see?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Cars don't work.
A lot of cars don't work in Malta. There we are. Not too bad, was it?
You might be familiar with the name, 1989, and the government is expected to announce later whether or not it will order a public inquiry into what is without doubt one of the most
You alright, darling,
notorious
to get him
murders
out?
of the Troubles.
I will
The
turn around.
Shank family have fought a very
Why
long
don't you turn
campaign
around? I like
for
looking the
life,
other
which
way.
we've seen in other instances in Northern Ireland as well, in a bid to have London fulfil a commitment given 20 years ago to hold an inquiry. Let's talk about this case with Alison Morris, security correspondent and columnist with the Irish News. Alison, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
I mean, to me, the name Finucane is just, it's redolent really with so much of what that conflict typified.
It is, and the fact that he was such a high-profile solicitor at the time, but also in the run-up to Pat Finucane's murder in 1989. I mean, just to give some context, members of the Ulster Defence Association, a loyalist paramilitary group, came through his front door on a Sunday afternoon while he was sitting having Sunday lunch with his wife and 3 children, shot him 14 times. His wife's children was injured in that attack, and it was witnessed by his 3 children who were only very young at the time. One of those children, John Finucane, is now an MP. He's been selected as MP for North Belfast in December, which again I think is heaping further pressure on the British government to finally fulfil the commitment for an inquiry. There has been investigations into this killing before. We've had the Stevens investigation, the Corey report and the De Silva review, but all of those investigations have fell short of what a public inquiry could do, which is compel witnesses. The gang that was responsible was riddled full of police and army intelligence informers. Some of those people were British military informers, some of them were special branch informers. We know that in 2012, then Prime Minister David Cameron apologised in the Commons and said that there was frankly shocking levels of collusion involved in the murder. The family want a public inquiry because the previous investigations couldn't compel witnesses. Only a public inquiry could compel witnesses to come forward and give evidence, and that would include the people who would have been the handlers of those informers who have never came forward and give evidence, and they want to get to the heart of could the killing have been prevented, first of all, and was it properly investigated afterwards? And I think that we already know the answer to the second one. It was not properly investigated, but we don't know the full extent of the first part of that question.
Has it been established without any doubt that among those planning and carrying out the killing were members of the army, the British Army, and the police?
They were the people who were responsible for the actual killing were loyalist paramilitaries from the Shankill area of Belfast, but several of those people then were later revealed to have been police agents, including one who was William Stobie, was the man who provided the gun that was used in that in the murder. He himself came out then and said that he had been working for Special Branch, that he had informed his handlers that someone was to be targeted and murdered. And no sooner had Mr. Stobie come out and publicly spoke, about 2 weeks later he was shot dead in the street. And he was killed. We also know that there was a military agent, Ken Barrett, who drove a getaway car in that killing. And, you know, the collusion has been proven, it has been shown through those various inquiries, but what we don't know is how high up that went. You know, shortly before Mr. Finucane was murdered, Douglas Hogg stood up in the Commons and talked about some solicitors being unduly sympathetic towards the IRA. He later admitted he was being briefed at a high level by senior REC men in the run-up to making those comments, and those comments proved really controversial because they were seen as that was almost like the setting up of people to be murdered in the aftermath of that. So all of that goes right to the heart of government, and I think that's why the inquiry is so important.
And did Pat Finucane represent people who were both loyalists and Republicans?
He did represent loyalists, but he would have been known as a high-profile solicitor. He would have represented members of the IRA, and in the run-up to that, there was a number of cases where people had coerced confessions and things like that, and he had managed to get the cases thrown out. So he was becoming, you know, as a solicitor, he was a really successful solicitor. He was, at that time, his profile was getting higher and higher. He was regularly featured in news reports. So his name was known, and he would have been a well-known solicitor in Belfast at the time. So while he represented both factions of the community, his work in representing and defending members of the IRA was seen as what set him up and what made him become a target for those paramilitaries. And as a public inquiry is expected, if it is going ahead, to show that they were helped in that targeting by members of the state as well, in terms of their handlers.
Well, Alison, thanks for talking to us. Let's see whether that announcement comes today or not. Alison Morris, security correspondent and columnist with the Irish News. Many thanks to Alison. Chris has called from Croydon to carry on our conversation around the various restrictive measures being taken both in Wales, across the UK. In fact, we're focusing on Wales and England today because of the sort of news agenda, really. No more than that. Everybody's being affected in a similar way. Chris has called from Croydon on this. Hello, Chris.
Oh, hi, Sheila. Thanks for taking my call. I would like to react to the point or the idea that we could just all carry on as normal and be COVID safe. I don't really believe it's possible to be entirely COVID safe. I think you can mitigate against the risk to a certain extent, but the idea that you can actually be completely safe, I think, is not really a reality.
But you're not even completely safe. I mean, I suppose you are if you sit in your house and don't go anywhere, then you're completely safe from COVID, as long as nobody else comes in. But you wouldn't be safe from other things, I suppose, if you did that. But
no.
But
and also, sorry,
I don't think anybody who's saying things should be more relaxed is saying that you can be made completely safe in that. I don't think anybody's suggesting that, because you just can't.
No, exactly. But what will happen if we go back to opening up again as we did after the first lockdown is that we'll just have another rise in infection rates, and we'll start that same treadmill over and over again. And I think that, probably we need actually slightly tougher restrictions than we're going to be moving into, because there is a vaccine on the horizon, and I feel that we could stop a lot of illness and loss of life by just kind of digging in a bit longer and waiting for the vaccine to come.
Well,
and I do appreciate.
It depends what you're facing in that experience, doesn't it?
That. I mean, I myself can't work at the moment because I was in the entertainment industry, and I don't think that I'll be able to carry on. Luckily, I did start a limited company and pay myself by PAYE, so I am being furloughed. Not that it's a huge amount, but I don't think I'll have a viable career after this, so I'm using my furlough period to retrain online. But so I do appreciate that people's livelihoods are suffering, but at the end of the day, it's a public health emergency, and I think we've got to keep people as safe as possible.
But it's funny
because there is a way out of this coming on the horizon.
It's funny though, because I've operated between Tier 2, Tier 3, and then obviously the English lockdown that we're still in until Wednesday. Tier 3 isn't much less than a full lockdown, to be honest with you. A little bit, you've got a bit more scope of meeting people, but not much, and it's all outdoors, and it's not in venues anywhere, it's just in a park for a walk. But it is restrictive. So when I heard that the two cities that I do most of my business in are going into Tier 2, I mean, the scale of how restrictive Tier 3 and meant to me, it felt like a fiesta. I thought, oh my God, I can meet more than one person. I can sit outside a restaurant or pub and have a drink and a bite to eat, and it just felt nice and normal. But actually, Tier 2 is quite restrictive.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's fairly restrictive. But the problem is also that you have to rely on you can behave as safely as you think is possible for yourself, but you rely on other people to do the same.
You do.
And with asymptomatic transmission, it's very difficult to know if the person that you may accidentally become in contact with is carrying the virus.
Well, roll on better testing, I say to that. Thank you.
I think if we did roll out mass testing, it would make life a lot better.
It makes life, I mean, there's some evidence of that in Liverpool at the moment, for sure. Thank you, Chris, for your call. I wish you well with the new training as well, by the way. That's Chris calling from Croydon. Coming up after the news, I want to talk about the shopping. Not least because of the Arcadia situation. Sir Philip Green's retail empire entering administration is not looking good for them. But let's talk more broadly about going to the shops, the high street.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC.
From
From Global's newsroom at 2 o'clock, pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants in Wales are being banned from selling alcohol from Friday evening. They will also have to close at 6 o'clock to all but takeaway. First Minister Mark Drakeford has announced other restrictions to bring coronavirus cases there under control.
From that same date, indoor entertainment venues, including cinemas, bingo halls, bowling alleys, soft play centres, casinos, skating rinks and amusement arcades will have to close.
A report into the expected impact of England's new coronavirus tiers is expected to be published later. The new rules are due to start on Wednesday, with MPs voting on them tomorrow. Boris Johnson's still trying to convince some of his own party that they should back the measures, with some unhappy that areas are going under the toughest restrictions. House Secretary Matt Hancock is to hold a press conference at 5 o'clock. Downing Street says he will announce further details on the government's community testing programme. The Attorney General has told the Court of Appeal the driver of the car in the PC Andrew Harper case in Berkshire should have been given a life sentence. 19-year-old Henry Long was jailed for 16 years for manslaughter in July. 2 other teenagers were also convicted. The officer died after being dragged behind a car last year. A paid-for coronavirus testing centre has opened at Gatwick Airport. It's available for people flying in or out of the country, but to the wider public as well, with results expected within 24 hours. Nick Markham, who's the co-founder of Express Test, says it will serve a range of purposes.
If they're looking to fly, they can get a fit-to-fly certificate, but sometimes people just want to get a test to be able to visit Granny for the weekend and know that they're safe.
Arcadia Group, which owns the Topshop and Topman brands, could be calling in administrators as early as this afternoon, placing 13,000 jobs at risk. Mike Ashley's Fraser Group has confirmed it's offered the firm, owned by Sir Philip Green, an emergency loan of £50 million. Downing Street says Father Christmas will not have to wear a mask in Santa's grottos, but children will not be allowed to sit on his knee under coronavirus guidance. It was announced yesterday that grottos and carol singing will be allowed in England, provided all the guidance is followed. In the city, a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was down 6 at 63.62. The pound buys $1.33 and €1.11. And the weather, rain in the west this afternoon, but sunny spells in the north later on with a few showers, a high of 11. From Global's newsroom, I'm Tim Humphrey. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Hello, good afternoon to you if you're just joining us here at LBC. I want to talk about the shops. I can just about understand what Rita Ora was saying when she said she kind of thought they'd come out of lockdown already, that she wasn't so particularly conscious of it being Wednesday. That seems to be what she was alluding to in her statement, apologising for throwing a party for 30 people in a restaurant in West London. But I made a kind of similar mistake today, in that I just mentally assumed the shops were open this evening and was planning to go to a particular shop on my way home, until my colleague pointed out that that's not happening until Wednesday. So it is possible, isn't it, just to kind of, in the busyness of it all and in the chopping and changing of tiers and shops being open, shops being closed, restaurants being open, restaurants being closed, being able to eat in, being able to eat out. It is easy to get confused around these things, even if your business is, as mine is, being in the detail of it pretty much all the time. So let's talk about the shops, shall we? I can't go tonight, so let's talk about them instead. Sir Philip Green's retail empire, Arcadia, we've been speaking about this since the tail end of last week, really, haven't we? That includes household names like Topshop, Burton, Dorothy Perkins, could face collapse within hours. In fact, an awful lot of jobs there, 13,000 jobs being put at risk. The company could well enter administration today. And senior sources at the company say they don't expect a last-minute rescue deal. Now, this is just one company, I suppose, but takes in so much of the high street, historically, the high street anyway. But it's been changing already well before the pandemic, but the pandemic clearly has speeded up that process somewhat. It's a huge business empire that owns a chunk of the high street's brands, including, as well as the names I mentioned, Miss Selfridge, Topman, Wallace, Evans as well. But has your relationship to shopping changed permanently, do you think? I suppose the real test is only when they fully reopen. They're about to reopen, and we hear that they may, in the lead up to Christmas, be able to be open for much longer hours, even 24 hours in some cases. Now, I can see why, if you're looking on from the hospitality sector and seeing the retail sector open for 24 hours a day, that might strike you as rather odd and, more importantly, unfair. But would you shop in the middle of the night? Would you do your Christmas shopping at midnight? Will you avail yourself of these endless opening hours in the high street, on the high street? And I wonder, has your shopping changed now for good? Loads of us have been doing much more online shopping than we had been. Is it a permanent change for you, do you think? 0345 6060 973 is the number. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. And again, give you a sense of the Tier 3, Tier 2 regulations and the difference between them. In Tier 2, I was talking to a cab driver today, and he was saying, on my way in, he was saying, roll on Wednesday, people will go out for drinks and meals, and they'll get cabs home, and they'll pop to the shops, and they'll get cabs home, and they'll get cabs around London, and it will make a material difference. He said it will help him survive the winter, basically, the fact that London is in Tier 2, in his case, for his job. And you can see how that's the case, can't you? And if you're in Tier 3, a whole different thing awaits you. But just with shopping in mind, are you going to shop in the middle of the night? Are you going to avail yourself of these shop opening hours? And do you think your shopping habits have changed for good? 0345 6060 973, the number. You can text 84850. You can tweet at LBC. If you work in retail, love to hear from you on this. It's a worrying time for you, for sure. Matthew Thompson joins me, LBC's reporter, who's on Oxford Street. I drove through there yesterday evening, saw the lights. It looks beautiful. Plenty of people were out and about enjoying the Christmas lights, but not shopping.
Well, it's a shadow of its former self, Sheila. Usually you can barely walk down Oxford Street, and really I'm stood in the middle of it outside the flagship Topshop store, and there's barely a soul here. It's especially this time of year, it's an extraordinary sight. But as you said at the beginning, it won't be long until shops are allowed to open again as of Wednesday, and for as long as they like, potentially, after the government's announced that they'll be able to do so 24 hours a day in December and January. Now, I don't know whether they'll still be open at 3 o'clock in the morning, Sheila, but the key here is that there are quite strict rules around when shops can open, usually between 9 and 7. And so extending those might offer shops the quick way to just stay open a few extra hours longer. The key thing will be, we don't know the full details of this yet, the key thing will be to look at what happens on Sundays, when, as we know, there are very, very much restricted Sunday trading hours. So will those be relaxed as well? I imagine there'll be lots of people quite happy about that. But one shop that may not be able to do so, as you mentioned, is Topshop, which I'm standing outside now. It's owned by Philip Green's Arcadia Group, which could be the latest and by far the biggest victim of the coronavirus recession. Up to 13,000 jobs potentially at risk if the group is placed into administration, which we think could happen in the next few hours. Over the weekend, they've been trying to secure millions of pounds in loans to help it plug the gap in what it says is lost sales due to the pandemic. But it is just the latest in a long line of retail businesses to struggle with coronavirus. The likes of Peacocks and Jaeger fell into administration earlier this month. There is, though, one potential lifeline. Businessman Mike Ashley has offered a loan and hinted that his group, formerly Sports Direct, might step in if it does fall into administration. And the former CEO of Arcadia and Marks and Spencer, Lord Rose, told LBC that that's an offer they should accept.
We've got to worry about the massive impact this is going to have on employment, and this is not just Arcadia, this is sector-wide. You'll have seen the stats. There's forecast 20,000 store closures this year, 250,000 further retail jobs to go. If anybody can pick up bits and parts of this business and save some jobs, I'm all for that, but I'm a bit pessimistic, I will admit. The Chancellor said this week that we're the end of one crisis, hopefully, and the beginning of another. I think he said it very clearly. We are in a crisis. I am a simple businessman, I'm a shopkeeper, but I can see problems coming up, and what we've got to do now is we've got to make choices. We have to make that choice between livelihoods and lives, and I think the government has been a bit naive in trying to believe that by introducing these tiers, lockdown one day, no lockdown the next day, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you try running a business in such an environment, it's almost an impossible feat to accomplish.
Another major concern at Arcadia, Sheila, is the pension fund, which has an estimated £350 million hole, which would put around 10,000 pensions at risk. And MPs over the weekend said that Sir Philip Green, the chair of Arcadia Group, should put his own money into that and help plug the gap. And then finally, Sheila, there's Debenhams. Arcadia has brands, as you mentioned at the beginning, like Miss Selfridge and others, which sell tens of millions of pounds of stuff at Debenhams. And Debenhams is in the middle of negotiating a rescue deal for its own struggling business. So if Arcadia goes under, well then Debenhams could struggle to get its rescue deal over the line. So we could see a domino effect. This really is one of the giants of the high street struggling, which could have untold ramifications for other retail sector businesses.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Matthew Thompson, LBC's reporter on Oxford Street. What's interesting is that Sir Philip Green has been criticised, or it has been observed about his business approach, is that he never really invested in online shopping in a way that many others did, or many others just came out of online shopping, places like, if you think of ASOS, for example. And when you look at the names like Wallis and Miss Selfridge and Topshop, they were the shops I went to in my teens. And my nieces now don't go to those places. They do loads of their clothes shopping online, or they go to other places. They don't, Topshop maybe, but not the others. It doesn't seem to attract numbers in the way that it did when I was a kid. Kate Hardcastle joins me, consumer and retail advisor at the business consultancy company Insight with Passion. Kate, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Has Sir Philip suffered because he didn't move with the times?
I think it's fair to say that Sir Philip has had that trader mentality of buy a lot cheaply, stack it very high and try and sell it on as big a profit as possible. But I think it would be unfair to the 13,000 employees there to try and suggest that was one man leading one strategy and no one else tried to turn the tide. Certainly the brand has not adapted online as quickly, and by that we don't mean just an e-commerce website, an opportunity to buy. We mean conversation, we mean getting on to this point of a new generation of shopper. There's been an incredible amount of disruption in the marketplace, and that's been both in traditional high streets with brands like Primark and in the retail e-commerce only environment with particularly the Boohoo group that have brands like People Staying and Boohoo Stars. But it's been a case of underinvestment. I think failure to realise the speed and severity of change. And if I was to put my take on it, it's literally now that consumers are the tail wagging the dog, and that's the way it's got to be.
What, is a tablet, was it?
No, injection. It was an injection, and he says put him pseudo cream.
Injected in his bottom?
No, in his skin.
Oh, okay.
He said put pseudo cream on his bottom and keep him busy for 10 minutes. So he doesn't lick it off, you know. I said, all right, I'll do that.
So to speak.
Oh, that could be Johnny's department.
By telling them what.
Well, he's under my desk, isn't he?
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, you have to have a conversation with them. And yes,
all right, Barnes. It's convenient here, isn't it?
Very convenient, yeah. Why did we ever go anywhere else?
Because he wasn't here.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he was, I think, a year in Ireland.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Did he always have this surgery?
No, and when he came back he had this surgery. Before he was more house calls, which I actually liked. You know, the house calls. They're nice, these places here, huh? I wouldn't mind that you would like here, huh? Thank you. So he's a wholehearted believer in the conspiracy. What do you think?
Most people over here would be, yeah.
But he's fucking Slovenian or Serb or whatever.
Yeah, but he lives in this area, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So he'll be influenced by everybody else in Bithynia.
Well, not really. I don't think he's listening to anyone in Bithynia. No, I don't think so. No, it's no. That's you know, COVID.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
He believes that.
Look, you see how they struggle to get up the hill, don't they?
then they have shit cars, don't they?
Well, that is a shit car, yeah, but that's why they go fast and get on the down.
Lots of holes, and then they fly out and crash frontal collision.
They've done a nice
into
job with this, haven't they?
Yeah, they did actually.
Kept a lot. Well, it was required, wasn't it, to keep the original stone, and they just added on to it. You know.
It is actually quite sweet.
I think they've kept the original stone, but not
Behind
used any of it. They built behind the stone, you know.
Yeah.
A completely separate skin, you know.
That was quite convenient that we could use this bit, eh?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's a big diversion, isn't it?
Ooh, massive.
It was on a high street essentially. It was just, and loads and families lived there. It wasn't just a street. It was whole communities lived. It was department stores, a lot of shops, supermarkets. Yeah.
And you know, maybe further away from Malta, an example of that is that a tennis court next to
I don't feel like working anymore. I really lost the edge.
Yeah?
Yep. Lost the edge. Careful, we have a precious dog. Precious dog.
Expensive dog. Huh? You said people are actually working in here now, did
Well,
you?
seems like, yeah.
Oh yeah, well the lights are on, look. Yeah. Looks nice in there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because he thinks, you know, like there's the secret societies that want to turn us all into puppets.
Oh yeah. Well, most people are sold into slavery already and they just don't know it.
Has it changed because of the pandemic? And does that picture that Kate that Melbourne example, is that high street that you want mixed economy on the high street? Some shops, some leisure, some accommodation, flats, some tennis courts.
Today is the 30th, eh?
30th day, last day of November, yeah. My Christmas shopping has been completed.
Really?
Yeah. Whether it all arrives before Christmas is another matter though. Who knows? I hope you like what I've got you.
I hope so too.
Well, it's
if not, tough shit, eh?
well, I did give it some thought. And one of them took a little bit of creation. I had to create something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah. And that's the one that I don't know if it will arrive before Christmas. It's meant to arrive between the 17th of December and the 5th of January or something.
Oh, alright. Oh well.
And one I've got no date on at all. Well, I mean, have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Yeah? I've never had that before.
I had that.
Where they don't tell you a date.
Not a date, but if you take the expedited delivery, which is a fortune, usually more than the actual item.
No, this one didn't have an expedited delivery.
Oh, it didn't have an offer, no?
No. And I made a nice card for Mum on Moonpig of the four of us. You know the one where we're pointing, and that's the centre of the card with Merry Christmas around the outside, and then lots of personalised stuff inside. And I did a Christmas hamper for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Moonpig as well, because they did Christmas hampers.
Yeah.
I got her chocolates for birthday, so she likes the cards at Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely card because it's got that nice picture of us on a nice big card. Yeah, from all of us, you know.
Yeah, that's sweet, yeah. Now I've got Johnny is sorted. You're supposed to be sorted. Josie and Sean sorted. I might put some money for her in it. Mind you, I'm broke this year.
Well, next year could be quite good. If Gorkam wants some sort of customer care here, then I'm the obvious choice, aren't I now?
Oh, okay. I'll definitely mention it to him when he shows up again.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, then the money goes up.
Well, and when it's a job, then it's different,
Yeah,
you know?
then it's a job, yeah. 100k a year, that'd be alright.
They won't pay that, that's the problem. I tried that one.
What do you think they would pay?
Everyone deserves to have a stress-free festive shopping season.
Put it this way, they're not going to get anybody to set up a call centre for them here, contact centre, at less than 30k a year, are they?
I doubt it.
Well, it would.
They're paying the woman $2,500 for her kind of coordination, secretarial, what have you.
Well, what's that? That's 30, isn't it?
Yeah. 24.
Well, I suppose I'd do it for an extra 30. It would have to be on top of the existing, though.
No, of course, on top. Of course. Careful, doggy. Doggy.
Yeah, he's alright. He's used to leaning into stuff.
He's quite good at it, actually, no?
When it comes to shopping, not supermarket shopping, clothes shopping.
Listen, at least you've got something, yeah, to compensate the loss you suffered.
Yeah.
Well, that's already good. And hopefully we'll find something else. We'll get something else out of it.
And the days of me just sort of
What is
wandering
this guy
around
doing? He's a bit
department store to have a
confused.
look at
Listen.
these
Kevin from
clothes.
Liverpool.
Yeah, that kind of explains it.
Maybe it's as you get older, you have less time to do that. And I would shop with purpose. So I needed a pair of shoes or a particular type of dress.
You want to jump out? Are you ready?
Well, can you stop first before I do the jumping bit?
Right. I'm going to make it efficient.
Yeah, and break my fucking legs.
I don't really do that much these days. I still do it a bit, but not much. So the pandemic, the only change that it's instilled in me
Italians,
shopping-wise is that...
Well, they're from Sicily, because there's no employment in Sicily at all.
Yeah.
How about you? How did you
Should I get the dog out?
How do you shop?
No.
How will you shop? There you go. Those are the questions. That's your homework. 03456060973. The number to call. John has texted to say, I haven't been to a shop since July. Wasting time wandering around shops, aimlessly looking at random stuff seems like a meaningless luxury now, says John. It goes on to say, I've overshot the script. Being able to search for what you want online and nothing else is a more